and welcome to this demonstration of the CA Continuous Delivery ecosystem. As part of this demonstration, we'll show you how the Release Automation Continuous Delivery Edition can be used to track your release pipeline and also integrate with the Release Automation Orchestration tool to deploy virtual services, to create your test data for test data management, and also to automate test cases, and then show that promotions through your pipeline. For the demonstration, we're going to use the CARS application as our sample application. This is the schematic of it. We have a database that holds the inventory data. And also, as part of the application, we need a VIN lookup service that's been virtualized, as this is not available in our QA environment. And also, the data for this is going to be injected into from the test data system. And obviously, we also have the actual application itself that needs to be deployed onto multiple machines. So let's start by looking at the CARS application. So as you can see, it's a simple web application. If I click on the search button, this is the search feature. There's all the CARS available, and we have the VIN lookup function. And if I put in here a VIN number, it returns data, and that's what we're going to need to validate that our deployment has worked, that this actual function works. So we're going to start by going to Agile Central. Now, Agile Central is a repository of our user stories and our defects for this release. And in each of these, we have our defined user stories, our in progress, our completed, our accepted. And also at the bottom of the screen, we have data from our testing systems. But we're going to start with going into this user story 27. This is the user story, has all the details of this user story, including the test cases. We're going to mark this as being in progress because we're now moving on. And we're going to reschedule this from 2.1 to the 2.5 release. And just click Done. And as you can see back on the dashboard, that user story is now moved up into the in progress state. And at this point, we're going to switch to the Release Automation Continuous Delivery Edition dashboard. So this is the console used by our release team to understand how the releases are functioning. So how many of our tasks are automated in the release pipeline, how much time is spent in this automated task, and how much our failure rate is. Also, we can look over here at our releases. We can see that for the previous release, 2.1, how much idle time was spent in the various phases, our requirements gathering, our QA, our pre-production, and our production. And as you can see, our production was very small, which is good. And we're going to switch now to actually go and look at the 2.5 release, the release we're currently working on. Now this screen shows us the phases, that's these columns here. And the phases indicate the things we need to do at each step along our pipeline. So first phase, requirement gathering, second phase, QA, pre-production, production. In the left-hand panel, this is taking content from the Agile Central tool. So if you remember, we changed that user story from 2.1 to 2.5. And if I refresh this panel, currently there's no user story 27. If I refresh the panel, as you can see now, the users of the Continuous Delivery Edition dashboard can now see that that user story has been aligned to this release that we're working on. Now what we're going to do next is actually start the QA. So we've finished our requirements. We're going to click the Start button to start this phase. Now the first thing that happens is the first task, this task is actually a manual task. So the engineering group needs to complete their code quality review. We're going to mark that as being done. And straight away we go to an automated task, and that's this task here. This automated task is the preparation of the database to be used for our deployment. And you see that happen really quickly. Now that's dependency on these three tasks. Now these three tasks can run in parallel, as you can see. And here we're actually deploying the virtual service, deploying the application, and also injecting the test data. So if we go to our release automation console and refresh this, you'll see we've got two running jobs here. So we're deploying the application and publishing the test data. And if we go to our test data management system and refresh this, you'll see that this first job is just actually started and it's completed. And we'll go back to the Continuous Delivery Edition. So we've now deployed the data, deployed the virtual service, deployed the application. We're now running the testing scripts, as you can see here. And if we go to our testing tool and look at the tests, what we'll see in the testing is, let's refresh this screen. that the Selenium test is currently running. The API test finished, and if we click on that and drill into that, this is all the data from that test. Now, at the end of this test, what we also do is take that test data and pass it back to Agile Central. So if we go back to Agile Central and look at this user story here, and then look at our test case. So this is the test case we just looked at in the test tool. And in the results set, we have all the results. So we can see that result just ran and it completed. And if we click on the PDF, we have access from here for all the test data. So that failed. We have all this data ready for the Agile Central user. Now back in Continuous Delivery Edition, what's happened is test case is completed. We then checked in Agile Central that all the functional test cases completed, and they did, which means this phase completed. And automatically, we then promoted this phase onto the pre-production. And you can see we've now started the same release in the pre-production, and we're going for exactly the same thing, taking the same data, running this in the pre-production release. When we get to production, there's actually a stopper. We've actually got an approval gate, so this won't automatically promote into production, but it will actually carry on until it gets to the end, the next manual step. Now, if we go and look at our reports and look at the applications, we can now see that this 2.5 release, it was in QA, it's now also being deployed in production. So from this screen, we can see that in production we have 2.1, in QA we have 2.5, and in pre-production we have 2.5. And if we return to the release, we can now see that we've gone through that again. We've deployed the database, loaded our test data, created our virtual service, deployed the application in pre-production. We're now running the automated testing again, and then we'll go through the same steps of check the test cases in Agile Central, and then the final check in the pre-production is a penetration test. Thank you.